Welcome to the Sushi Swap Onsen AMA, where we bring on projects that have partnered through the Onsen program and give them a platform to reach a larger audience. Today we're here with Derek from Moonbeam. How are you today?
I'm doing really well.
Great, thanks for joining us. We'll just get started here with a few questions, warm things up, give a little introduction and all that kind of stuff, and then we can open it up to the audience. I see a few hands up already, so that's super exciting. But we're about 10-15 minutes in, we'll open it up and we can kind of go from there with questions. So if you want to get up on stage, there is a little hand button down at the bottom. Click on that, and that gives you access here to get up and ask your questions that way. There's also the AMA text questions, and we can answer some questions in there as well. And we'll bring those into the conversation as it gets started. So as I do see a few hands here, we'll keep those up if you don't mind, and we'll get to you. We'll get to you shortly. So thank you for that already. It's nice to see early engagement. But Derek, if you don't mind, let's maybe go through. Just give us a quick intro about yourself, some background, and your current involvement with Moonbeam.
Yeah. I guess I've been building software my whole career, so that's that's a pretty long time at this point. So I started like in the late '90s doing that, I think maybe a little bit unusual, background wise relative to some other folks in the Web3 space is that I spent a bunch of time building kind of just Web2 companies. In particular, I started this company called Fuse, and I was there for a long time. I was there for like 13 years building that up. That was just like a regular Web2 cloud company. And so I think that's definitely, flavored, I guess, or kind of influenced a lot of my thinking about building like in the Web3 space. Kind of did a bunch of work, building different either cloud, SaaS, other kinds of software companies. And then, really the big change came for me at the beginning of 2019 when that was kind of like the beginning of my adventure, like into Web3. Which, by the way, we were talking about it before. Like, it's definitely a recommended change. I kind of love having a great time, kind of working in the Web3 space. That was at the beginning of 2019. Kind of started the company Pure Stake, and we started working on the project Moonbeam. And so it's been a couple of years now, going on 3 years, 2.5 years, something like this. That we've been at it, I guess like one interesting story is like I get asked sometimes, well, how did I even think to get into to the Web3 space? And that's like my co-founder from like my last company. He left to start a crypto project, so that's kind of what inspired me. I mean, he kind of had been working together for like a long time building that company Fuse I was talking about. We've been kind of working quite close together for many years. And then he left to start a crypto project. So that's kind of what got me pretty interested, because he was, super excited about it and telling me all about, kind of like all the opportunities and all the great things happening. And so, he's now, so that guy's name is Steve. He's the one of the founders of the project Algorand. So that's like another layer one blockchain that's based in Boston here, like I am.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's kind of what got me kind of like going and kind of inspired to kind of do something myself.
Yeah, nice to have that inspiration to take the leap. So 90s coding and 90s software building was Hackers. That movie, was that an inspiration for you?
I saw it, but this. I mean, when I graduated from college, it was like the first internet wave, and so I know that probably a lot of people in the audience like weren't around or like working then, but it actually has like some similar like feel to like what you currently find in Web3, where it's just kind of this like breakneck speed and like any kind of like all these things kind of happening at once, and tons of opportunity. And for the people that are kind of close to it, you kind of see that like, hey, this is going to change the way like the world works, right? But it's still not, that's not like known by everyone yet. So I definitely draw some parallels like that, those early kind of like the first like internet wave days and kind of what I see here.
Yeah, sweet. No, it's good. Yeah, like the even think of the dial-up sound. Like I ask new kids, like little kids now, I'm like, what does the internet sound like? Yeah.
It's like elevator music, right? That's with the fade with the
That's
fade out. So,
yeah, the new style. Yeah. Okay. What about the name Moonbeam? Where did Moonbeam and Moonriver? Where does that all come from?
yeah, so there is a story there, right? So I mean, so like I said, we didn't have this like long experience like in crypto, and so it actually the name comes from a song. So all of our networks are named after songs. So there's a an old song called Polka Dots and Moonbeams, and so that's where the name came from. Is we kind of all knew this. It's like an old jazz standard, so it's kind of an old song. And we said, oh, okay, that might make sense to just kind of, it has kind of a bit of a polka dot tie-in, but it's not, polka something, right? That's kind of what tends to happen, when someone's kind of building in an ecosystem. So we felt it was different. Now, the thing that we didn't, we honestly did not like understand was we didn't even understand the whole like moon, like meme, like part of things. Like, we were so kind of new to the space, we didn't even know that. So then when people told us that later, like, oh, like you should like change your name. People aren't going to think this is a serious project. But at that point we were like, you know what? Like, let's just own it here. Like, that's fine. Like,
Beautiful.
like,
Yeah. To the moon.
we're just gonna go with it, kind of thing. Yeah,
To the
exactly.
moon.
So there we go. We're a serious project with the name Moon.
Nice.
And,
Nice. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's maybe just give, for those that are in the room here, that just a quick kind of overview maybe on like how the dot, like, being a part of the dot ecosystem or the PolkaDot ecosystem, substrate, Parachain, Moonbeam, Moonriver. It's there's a bit to it, and maybe if you can give a kind of an ELI 5 for some people here, and just tie that all together nicely.
yeah. I mean, and maybe I'll tell the story as to like kind of from our point of view and like
Sure.
why like we've kind of like decided to build the project in the first place. So I
Yep.
think for us, even like when we started, it was kind of quite clear that we were going to be in an environment where like a multi-chain environment, right? That we're going to be in the kind of a permanently multi-chain world. And I think the thought was, well, if that's true, then kind of the connections or the connectivity between like these different chains becomes like kind of the critical challenge. And so I think that was kind of the mental model or the kind of the lens through which we were looking at things. And honestly, that's like what led us then to PolkaDot. The reason being that I think they share that kind of view and they're trying to solve problems that are relevant to that like worldview. So in PolkaDot you have this thing called substrate. So substrate is this blockchain building framework. So you kind of have this like software development framework that makes it like easy to make blockchains. And so we're using that for both Moonriver and Moonbeam, and I think that like that's going to lead to the creation of a lot of like specialized blockchains like in the future. Um, but you kind of have this ability to create blockchains on the one hand, but then the idea of PolkaDot is, hey, let's like create this kind of networking layer so that all these blockchains can kind of talk to each other. And so that, kind of thinking of it as a networking layer, that kind of seemed right to us, right? It's like, okay, you have all these blockchains, but how do they talk to each other? And to build it into like, the system itself, I think that like makes a lot of sense. And I think that it's kind of like a lot of that's happened in the last couple of years here, where there is this kind of proliferation of different like blockchains, and you can see that a large number of projects are coming in to try to fill this gap of like, well, how do these things talk to each other, right? There's a lot of different like bridging solutions or other kinds of cross-chain solutions that are coming to market now.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the original motivation was, we kind of felt kind of philosophically aligned, like we saw like a lot of developer activity, and then just to explain PolkaDot a little bit, right? So it's like the idea is that, if you're like one of the teams kind of building in PolkaDot, you're kind of one of the member blockchains. They call them parachains. So that's what, Moonbeam is and Moonriver is one of these like member blockchains. And then we all connect to this thing called the relay chain. That's kind of the backbone of the system. So that's the thing that provides this like networking capability to allow you to kind of talk to like other chains that are also, part of the ecosystem. And so that's good. And there's even the further kind of angle is that there's actually two networks. So there's PolkaDot, and then there's this companion network called Kusama.
Mm-hmm.
And that we have actually a deployment on each of them. Like so, our Moonriver deployment that recently went live is connected to the Kusama network, and then we're going to be launching our Moonbeam network connected to PolkaDot in pretty short order here, like in the next few months.
And what's so for for people here, like Kusama versus PolkaDot, what's the differences there, and what's happened with that?
Yeah, it's a seemingly simple question that you'll get like different answers to depending on like who you ask. But so here's the story is that I think so. The folks at Parity, that's the team that kind of created Polkadot. I think what they realized is they said, we need this kind of like this other network that is like a real network that has like real value on it, but that that is kind of the place where we deploy first, right? So like we need kind of a place where we can, I don't want to use the word test, it's not quite right, but like we need like this like deployment environment where we can, actually like see the software working and then, use that to inform like, our main, our quote unquote like mainnet deployment. So that was the original idea that Parity had, and that's why they created Kusama. Now I think what's happened though is that like, these networks, you can kind of have whatever idea you want, but they kind of take on a life of their own, like once they're launched. Same with a protocol for that matter, right? So I think that while that was the original idea, what's happened is there's like, a whole community that's formed around this like Kusama network. So it's definitely gone like way beyond kind of being this kind of like only this like canary net as I call it, or this like almost like a test net. It's like way beyond that, right? It's like it's its own thing now, where there's like a pretty enthusiastic community like around this Kusama network. And then there's like teams now that like are there that's like their final deployment destination, right? They're like, no, I don't even want to deploy to Polkadot. I want to deploy to Kusama, basically. And so I had kind of, I think for people in the Polkadot ecosystem, you often have teams that are doing dual deployments where they might have a deployment on Kusama and on like Polkadot. So it's kind of maybe a bit of a unique thing when it comes to the this Polkadot ecosystem.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks for kind of clarifying that for us. Okay, we've got a few questions coming in here from the audience. I'll bring you up kind of in the order that you came, but Kalsa, if you can hear me, if you're looking to get up here. Kalsa, going once, going twice. Okay, next one, Young Beef. If you've got Young Beef 4.0. Young Beef 4.0. Going once, going twice. Moving on to Trippy Bandit. We'll get somebody here soon enough. Oh, there's Young Beef.
There we go. Yeah, I didn't know how to hit a button.
Good. Trippy Bandit.
Thanks for me up.
We should wait there, Trippy Bandit, for when you do come up. All right, go ahead there, Young Beef.
Hey, Derek, I just had a question regarding the, I think it was 10% of the Moonriver supply that you're going to be allocating for liquidity mining stuff. Is that all going exclusively to Sushi when they launch, or are you going to be partnering with some of the other dexes that have already popped up on Moonriver?
Yeah, good question. I mean, first point of clarification, I would say that a lot of these initiatives and programs are being run by the Moonbeam Foundation. So similar to how there's like Parity and like the Web3 Foundation, and standing behind the relay chain, we have this similar structure where we have Pure Stake, which is where I work, and then there's the Moonbeam Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation based out of Singapore. So they're the ones running these liquidity programs. On the liquidity programs themselves, like so not a lot of details have been announced yet. We are kind of, collaborating with the Moonbeam Foundation to, clarify what some of those details are so we can get more information like out to folks. It will be something where, I mean, we do have like, as you can see from the value of mover tokens, it's a pretty significant amount of value to put into these programs. It's not something where it's just going to be one, kind of like one partner, because if you think about 10% of, I don't even know what the overall fully diluted market cap is, but it's, it's quite a lot. It's a pretty significant amount of funds. And so, we want to use that to bootstrap activity in multiple like different like areas. That being said, I would say that, obviously Sushi is like, one of the, I'll call it one of the pillars basically like of the program. But we are open to other, collaborators and other.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Young. All right, next up, see, Getsun 080. Getsun, going once, we got a bunch of phantom joiners here today. I'm gonna be dismissing a couple here. Prince Kid, come on up.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, you bet. Go ahead.
Hey Derek, how's it going? So I just had like a quick question. So in terms of as you said, like you had a friend that went ahead like co-founded Algorand. So I was just more or less curious like why you went ahead or why you guys went ahead and chose the substrate framework in order to build Moonbeam. Like there are other options like Tendermint or building your own layer one per se, or like Solana or Algorand or whatever. So what was like the decision to go with substrate over like building your own thing or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. Good question. So I guess the first question is like why is a framework versus building from scratch? For example, Algorand have this former co-founder. There I have a pretty good into like what kind of effort they put in. I would say that using a framework like Substrate, Cosmos SDK, the chain, it's like a map. I would call it that like it's probably it might be 10x like the amount to like build one from scratch by using like one of these frameworks. So I think my own take is that like the kind of the era of like building layer ones from scratch. I'm sure it'll still happen, like, but it's like kind of the exception rather than for anyone else. Like using one of these frameworks is going to be like vastly like more efficient. And so I think once you're kind of in that mental model of okay, I need a blockchain for a project, I'm going to build it framework. It kind of boils down to just like a pretty binary choice at this point. I mean, you basically have this choice between Cosmos SDK or Substrate. Those are the two frameworks that that are kind of the most credible. And so then the question is, okay, well, how do you choose between the two? And I think there's some kind of easier reasons. So for example, like Cosmos SDK is you're developing in Go versus Substrate in Rust, so it might be development team for one. I think for us, kind of the key thing for us was that there's some pretty significant differences. Well, I mean, while similar, there are differences between if you look at kind of the Cosmos conception of how that system works versus PolkaDot. And I think for us, it's this kind of, I keep on using this term networking, this ability for like us as a chain to be able to communicate, I guess.
Hey, Derek, we're just you're cutting in and out a bunch. Don't want to cut your train of thought there, but there's just some. It just seems like you're cutting in and out regularly. I don't know if there's some background noise or if your mic threshold is acting up a bit.
Just move the mic closer so that
yeah, maybe just try that
outside, which I didn't realize was going to happen. Obviously,
oh yeah,
Murphy's Law started like right as we started our thing.
Yeah, funny.
But,
these damn. But
you were having with a drill before. Let me just move the mic closer, and hopefully that helps things.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you continue here. Carry on.
No, so so this kind of the differences between Cosmos and PolkaDot is what I was talking about, and for us, this. I think we believe that the Cosmos, the PolkaDot kind of like architecture is basically like going to be better for these cross-chain scenarios that we're most interested in. I'll call it this. Kind of PolkaDot has like a more structured kind of like architecture. It's a more hierarchical and structured architecture versus Cosmos has this. I'll call it like a looser and more decoupled kind of architecture. And so I think we're of the belief that this kind of more structured like approach is going to be better for cross-chain scenarios. So yeah, I think that was kind of one of several reasons that we kind of went down this PolkaDot path, and I think we're quite happy. I mean, the ecosystem is great. We've gotten a lot of great support from a lot of folks in the ecosystem. So yeah, we're quite pleased with that choice.
Wonderful, thanks, Derek. Hopefully that answers for you there, Prince Kid.
Yep, it did. Thanks.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, up next, Small Toast. If you've got, you can hit accept or come up on stage. All right, there you go. That worked. There you go. Right. Go ahead.
Hey, I am wondering if Moonriver or Sushi Swap are planning to respond to any of the business development emails from the River Doge community that's been attempting to contact you guys.
I haven't seen those myself, but yeah, we're happy to kind of like respond. So yeah, I'll just say that if you want to like send me a DM like after this event, I'm happy to kind of have a look.
All right, that sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, yeah. If anybody has questions, of course, please continue to come on up and ask that way. Yeah, with let's see. I don't know if there's a few things that we can go through in the AMA text questions here. Just kind of looking back. Okay. Bridged assets from other EVM blockchains versus native .SAMA assets. Do you see bridge assets as intermediary until native assets are more commonplace? I know Tether should be native on .SAMA, but we haven't had any updates recently.
Yeah, I guess they'll both play a role. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't think it's realistic to think that like all chains are going to be like PolkaDot parachains. So, when it is the case that we're, interoperating like with a PolkaDot parachain, there's kind of a special approach you can take, right? I think that we have this very highly secure way of being able to transit assets from other PolkaDot parachains like onto Moonbeam. And just even to double click on that to kind of drill down, that is like work that's at the top of the queue right now. We're working on the first of these scenarios, which would be basically the movement of the KSM kind of relay chain asset from Kusama to Moonriver and allowing for bidirectional movement, right? So allowing it to move back and forth. The way it's using this like XCMP protocol, which is the way that different parachains on both Kusama and PolkaDot like talk to each other, or different chains. And the idea is that if you're a KSM holder like on Kusama, you can kind of send that KSM to Moonriver, and then when it arrives at Moonriver, it'll be like this special ERC20 compatible precompile. So it's going to be like a special built-in contract in our EVM that will allow you to kind of use it as an ERC20. So for example, you could like LP it into like a sushi pool. And but then you can always like transit it back, so you can like move it back if you want to the relay chain, and then it'll come under your control like on the relay chain, where you can there's different things you can do there, like stake it or participate in governance or things like this. So that's like the first of many kind of cross-chain scenarios that we're interested in. But not surprisingly, there's been like a lot of demand for that as like the first one, right? Because there's a lot of KSM holders that want to participate in all the interesting things that are happening on Moonriver. So that's kind of the native side, and we expect more and more of those assets to come over time, starting with KSM in the case of Moonriver, and then obviously other Parachain assets. But as I said before, not every chain is a Parachain, right? So we of course do have a number of project teams that have bridges of different kinds that have deployed onto leveraging kind of the EVM compatibility of Moonriver, and there's a bunch of assets like being bridged at this point. So we see it as a combination of the two. Like it's going to be kind of the outward facing integrations kind of can transit assets from other chains that are not part of the Kusama and PolkaDot ecosystems. But if it's parachains, then we have these like native integrations that are kind of facing towards the other parachains. And then we're able to leverage this like built-in networking that's part of PolkaDot and Kusama to move assets onto Moonriver and Moonbeam.
Cool. Thank you. Just wanted, because when you were cutting out there earlier here, I still see an answer or question here about Tender, why you chose DOT over Tendermint. Maybe just touch on that quickly here, just to kind of fill in that gap as you were cutting in and out. I think a lot of people were having issues hearing that. Yeah. Just a quick summary again there. Sorry about that.
Sure. Yes. So, no problem. I can go over that. So I think that I was kind of saying that when you're if you're going to build a blockchain, I think that you kind of have this binary choice these days of using the Cosmos SDK or Substrate. They're different languages, right? So if Cosmos SDK is Go based and Substrate is Rust based. But I think that the choice really boils down to that, like which language you're familiar with, but also like, whether it makes sense to be, kind of the PolkaDot kind of architecture makes sense, whether the Cosmos kind of setup makes sense, right? And for us, I think that we're believers in kind of this kind of more structured like approach that PolkaDot is taking, and that's because we think that that's going to be better for interoperability, and that's kind of like the key driver for us, right? It's like we want to be a parachain so that we can, have all these like ways of interoperating with like other specialized chains. I think, in the Cosmos world, and again, I'm much more familiar with PolkaDot than I am with Cosmos, but the mental model there is more like it's kind of like every chain is its own sovereign chain, and then you kind of optionally have these these IBC based integrations between chains, right? You can kind of almost opt in and say, okay, I'm going to integrate with these remote chains. The PolkaDot model is different, where it kind of feels more like it's actually one system, right? So, all of the teams that are building parachains you're part of the same structure, right? You're all kind of part of the same system. And so you kind of have more of the sense of, yes, we're just like part of one like larger like meta system. I've heard it described before, like, someone quipped the other day to me that like, maybe Cosmos was built by Europeans. It's more like you have these independent countries that all maybe have trade agreements or not. Whereas, maybe I'm an American, right? So like the PolkaDot has this more federal feel, right? Where it's like, it's just, you're all part of like one structure. So maybe it's because I'm an American that maybe that appeals more to me. I don't know.
All right. Cool. And then just kind of touching on a couple things from above there as well, in regards to bridging and faucets and whatnot. Just as it seemed like Moonriver, or if people were looking to get the mover token, you're gonna have to do that through centralized exchanges. Is there any other way to do it aside from centralized exchanges outside of bridging and faucets? Or is that kind of the way to do it?
There are multiple bridges. I would say they're all kind of like being deployed and kind of like being put through their paces now. So like they should be fully operational like quite soon. We're still kind of going through and making sure that everything is kind of like working like as it should. But there's going to be multiple. I mean, we did take the approach. Some other project teams will kind of like do the bridge themselves, right? So they'll have kind of a state-sponsored like one, and we decided to not do that. There was quite a number of teams that were coming to us like with different kind of novel bridging solutions, and so we thought it would be kind of in keeping with some of our principles and spirit to say, like let's have it be that there's like multiple choices here, and that we're not kind of specifically backing like any one kind of horse, if that makes sense, right? So kind of let like there be many choices, and let the market kind of like decide like which ones are the ones that that get the traction.
Okay, cool, great. Then I don't know. I see we've got a question here from the audience. Let's J Clo. You're looking to get up here, JKLOL. If you've got there you are. Go ahead.
Oh, hi.
Perfect.
I really like the project so far. I've used some of the applications on it, and I thought they worked really well. So thanks for that. But I just had a quick question about the incentives program, and it sounds like maybe, the foundation handles more of that. But I was just wondering if it was going to be more like the way Avalanche is handling it, or closer to what Phantom's doing, where there's a grant given for like a certain TVL, if they get a certain amount of support prior, they get like some initiatives or something like that. So yeah, that's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it might not be like a one size fits all. I think that the idea is to from the foundations to try like, different things, but there certainly will be like a more traditional like liquidity mining like component. Like that's for sure. I think that would make it more Avalanche like in that respect. I'm not super familiar with their program, but I think that maybe that's what they're doing. It definitely will have like a component that is just kind of like what people are used to. I think in general for us it's like unlike some of the other big L1s, like we haven't there's not like been these like huge amounts of money raised and other things. So I think it's like this is kind of we're a little bit more grassroots, I guess, and I think that the idea is that some of these programs like are going to be designed to just like get like awareness like for our project like out there, right? Kind of draw attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jake Lowe. Yeah, and then as far as sushi integration as well here, Derek, maybe you can kind of shed some light on that, and just kind of where we're at, timelines and kind of things. Timelines are always a bit not always the easiest, but just where how things are looking and how things are going there. Obviously we see that Moonriver is live on, or is, I shouldn't say live per se, but is part of one of the chains that we're going to be using, and just maybe give us some light and color on that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, some people here may not be aware, but I mean, the main thing is that we're about, let's say, not quite, but close to 3 weeks in to our Moonriver being live, which is our Kusama deployment, and that's gone quite well. I'd say there's been a lot of interest, a lot of usage. I think we can even see from the amount of deployment activity and the amount of traffic that we're seeing on our RPCs that there's just a lot of like interest in the network, which is great to see. So in terms of the sushi deployment, I think that's going to be coming quite soon. There are a couple, things that we want to make sure we've been working, with, the team there to make sure are kind of in place and correct before we, kind of officially kind of like, jointly like declare it open. One of them is we are working right now on just a couple final things related to the graph and supporting subgraphs. So that is something that some of the functions like within Sushi require, as well as like multi-sig, like having like an OSIS safe multi-sig deployment. So there's a couple infrastructural elements that are kind of like pending like verification and like a couple final like tweaks, but we're quite close on that. And so I expect it to be I'll just say very soon, I guess. And but in general, like in the last let's call it 3 weeks, we've also like been learning like a ton, right? So I mean, you kind of spend a couple of years building software, you do like performance tests, you have it on, we've had our testnet running in September for about a year now, but still that doesn't quite, that's not quite the same thing as like being in production and having like, heavy use going on. So we have been like learning quite a bit. I think we've had 4, node or client releases and 4 runtime like updates in the last 3 weeks or so. As we're just learning things, we're discovering, there's been some bugs, there's been some other things that we're just quickly around and addressing. So that learning like continues to iterate and evolve on the system. So I think it's quite soon, and like we're quite encouraged by the level of activity. There's been quite a bit of activity on the network in just a very short amount of time.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, and I'm starting to hear you cut in and out a little bit, so we'll just be mindful as we move along. But and then as far as we kind of touched a little bit on incentive programs, with Onsen rewards and whatnot. Are you guys looking to do something like dual rewards or anything like that?
So I think that is the idea, is to kind of provide like kind of a dual reward structure, along with as part of the program. So like I said, I think some of the details like are still kind of being out, but that would be the idea.
Perfect.
And we obviously we see this as an important pillar of kind of the programs that are being run.
Yep. Nice. Just one last one here from the AMA text questions here, and then we'll move to the audience for a few questions. There's just rumors about Binance listing. Just kind of shed some color on that, maybe with Mover's a strong contender and everything. But if you've I don't know if there's much.
Yeah, I don't know if I can comment kind of directly on that because the foundation's handling some of those things. But I would say that I would say this: they're like the performance and kind of the interest in the network has definitely is even far outstripped like anything that we thought would be the case in terms of our mover and our river deployment, and that hasn't gone unnoticed by a lot of people basically. So I think that I would say stay tuned for further developments like on that end.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's got a few hands up now. Let's invite Mango. Mango, come on up. Mango.
Hi guys,
Hey,
can you hear me?
You betcha. Go ahead.
Sure can.
So I'm sorry if you already answered the question. I kind of wasn't here from the beginning, but what's the point of Moonriver, and what will happen to Moonriver when Moonbeam goes live?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I would say at this point, I kind of had mentioned earlier that, the original idea was that, okay, you have this kind of like environment, like, on Kusama, and then kind of maybe the main show is like the PolkaDot deployment. That idea is like not like accurate anymore, basically, right? So I think we see these as just two networks that have different like token holders and different different communities potentially around them. And what we're seeing is that there are projects that are like even targeting like either one or the other. Like, so there are some projects that will deploy to both, but there's some that are even saying like I want to only deploy to Moonbeam. And there's some River. What the difference is, the code is the same. It will ship first to Moonriver, but the assets like will also be different, right? So there'll be a different set of assets and potentially other integrations and functions, on the two chains, depending on like what other parachains are like on each of those networks. So I kind of see them as, yes, there is a certain sequence to like deployments from our perspective, but I see them as kind of independently evolving and kind of unique in their own right, each one.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mango. Okay. Bring up Wolfgang.
How's my audio doing, by the way? Am I still cutting out?
Not too bad right now. I heard, but Wolfgang.
Hey, Derek. Thanks for taking the time to talk. A kind of first quick question. What are your initial impressions of the dApps that have been built on Moonriver over the last few weeks? Do you have any general thoughts of the activity that you've seen going on and the quality of the teams that you see building there, and what you think, kind of what teams are going to be kind of smaller, more boutique startup operations as opposed to Sushi? Obviously, Sushi's going to do great, but how do you see this kind of happening, unfolding right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was going to say that like the activity levels, as I was saying, are pretty much blowing us away. So I don't even know all of the teams are deploying. This is the thing that took us by surprise, is we had been doing quite a bit of like BD work to kind of say kind of align projects that we wanted to work with to deploy. But for every one of those, there's like 3 others that I just don't even never talked to them before, don't know who they are. So but that's pretty cool also, right? I mean that means that there's like a there's like a real kind of ecosystem and momentum that's like not just like us as a team kind of like pushing things like forward. So I think I guess my sense is that there's been this like pent up demand in the .sama kind of ecosystem that didn't have a way to express itself, and I think we've provided one of the places where that like can be that kind of deployment desire can be expressed, basically, right? And it's in different geographies too, is what I'd say. Because so for example, like I was talking to some teams earlier this morning, like from China, and like you realize that it's obviously I'm live in North America, and like like a lot of the teams in like Western Europe, but there's there's a bunch of activity, like grassroots organic activity happening in China. We're seeing like a large significant uptake like there of people reaching out to us and interested in like deploying and getting support. So I would say I don't even know all the teams that are deploying. There's obviously some teams are larger and already have like VC funding and kind of are a little bit further along. But you never want to count out like the hobbyist or kind of the smaller team that could really like have the breakthrough idea. So we want to just try to help support as many people as we can to deploy.
Yeah, awesome. Just some kind of general like thoughts on my experience with Moonriver. So I actually got in I was very interested in Moonriver right away. My brother got me interested. He was very interested in Moonbeam. From a technical standpoint, he was actually calling me up and telling me how excited he was about protocol. So I got into Moonriver quite quickly, and I'm actually also a big sushi holder. And right away, I saw kind of a nice adapt ecosystem developing, and I was pretty impressed. I was able to smoothly bridge my money over with any swap, and the bridge was built quickly. And I didn't even see those for other protocols, so things are moving quite quickly, and just a ton of excitement. And I was able to get on this cool little DApp. It's like, I think it's called Solar Beam or something, and they've got already over 100 million bucks. And I've been very impressed with what's going on. So kudos to you, Derek. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, I mean, as a final comment on that is that, like, I think it's been a little bit of a lesson for us, this whole thing, because I would say that I would call us maybe like, or myself, I was probably a little naive, where I was like, okay, we'll deploy, and then there'll be this orderly process. There'll be bridges, like step one, step two, step three, and then like we were still thinking about step one, and then like there was like a rush of people around us that were already going to step three, basically. So I think the lesson I've taken away from this is like any kind of like ability of us as a team to like dictate what's going to happen is just that's just like that's false. Like that's a false sense of like people are just going to like do what they're going to do, basically. And so we just have to kind of stay along for the ride, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think people got really excited after seeing what happened with Avalanche and Phantom, and just how those ecosystems just boomed. And there always kind of is like a couple native kind of dexes or dapps that end up kind of doing well, like Trader Joe on Avalanche, and a couple others. And then Sushi comes in, and they're kind of like just the obviously the standard for everyone. And I think that's why folks kind of quickly try to get their funds over. And that's why Moonriver just boomed very quickly, is because you kind of you need to kind of get in quickly and kind of be part of the entire hype experience. So, yep, I'm not surprised that things move much faster than you expected. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Okay, Korat. If you've got hit the speak button. Invited you to bring up here. Okay. If not, I know you were asking some stuff in AMA text questions. Maybe that's enough there. I'll get to Prince Kid here in a second. You've been up already once. I'll just get next. Yeah. Hey there.
Hello. Can you hear me?
You betcha. Go ahead.
All right. Hi, Derek. Really enjoyed the talk you've given, and very impressed by what you guys have been able to do in setting up a generalized EVM compatible environment for the .sama ecosystem. Yeah, just like everyone else has said, clearly there's been a lot of demand for that, and I think you guys planned very, very well to tap into just the legacy of documentation and tooling and all of that kind of stuff, right? To kind of be the go-to spot, since you're not the only EVM compatible parachain, but you guys kind of figured it out. And so I did want to ask a little bit about your views on kind of from where you're starting to where you're going as far as your tech stack and the virtual machines that you support. Right, so you're getting a lot of momentum out of this now because you've kind of had this focus here, but there's also, and at the same time, there's also the way the stack is designed on substrate, where potentially you could use your slot in other ways, support other VMs, do other things, right? So I know it's one step at a time, and you can't get too far ahead of yourself, but ultimately the vision is this whole cross-chain, multi compatibility vision, right? That's all throughout your kind of previous docs and talks and all this kind of stuff. So I was wondering if you guys had any thoughts based on what you learned so far about kind of what the future might look like as far as supporting other virtual machines or supporting other ways of kind of interacting with chains that have other virtual machines and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're open to it, but I would say that at least our focus has been, and at least for the foreseeable future, will continue to be on that kind of Ethereum tech stack. And just one aside or kind of point I'd make on that is that obviously there are other virtual machines. There's even there's this Inc. smart contract programming language, which is one of the other ones that Parity has created. So that's kind of has like mind share within the .sama like ecosystem. But I think this is especially I think relevant to even some of the previous like Web2 company building I've done. I do think that people tend to like underestimate what it takes to build like all of the developer tooling and infrastructure like around a tech stack. And so you can have something that's like that's shinier and newer and like faster and what have you, but there's just this huge kind of like network effect and pull right now, like on the Ethereum tech stack. And I think that's why certain chains have gotten developer traction over others, I think, right? You look at kind of even what's happened this year, it's a lot of the chains that have gotten traction have offered like some form of Ethereum compatibility. And I think that's not an accident, right? I mean, that's because I think the tools there are, have like a much higher degree of maturity than, some of the newer tech stacks. So that was an intentional kind of part of our strategy was, let's go for the thing that, has this like most mature set of tools so that we can kind of be like lifted by those, right? Rather than having to, create a lot of those ourselves, we can kind of leverage, kind of what's out there. And so that's definitely part of the product strategy. I'd say, within kind of on the way forward or kind of what the roadmap looks like, you're right on that. Working on interoperability scenarios is kind of key from a feature perspective for us. And if you think about it, like the question is like why be like a parachain at all, right? I mean, pretty expensive, and like there's like different constraints you have to operate under as a parachain, and so you could just be a standalone chain, right, and then have full control over the thing. But for us, it is this kind of I keep on using this term networking layer, right? It's like this ability to like network with other chains that we see as kind of the critical capability. And so this is where some of the work we're even doing in the short term is going to start to expose some of these cross-chain kind of integrations and scenarios. So even the scenario I was describing earlier of being able to move the KSM asset like back and forth between the relay chain powered by XCMP. That's like a kind of a prototype for what a lot of these integration features are going to look like. So basically how they look is that we already have this, right? We have like a whole bunch of precompiles like in our EVM, and we plan to expand that like a lot, right? That kind of offer access into the underlying substrate functionality that like is kind of the the underlying tech stack that like the Moonbeam and Moonriver themselves are built on, that then can go and exercise like remote integrations or other things. And so we have like precompiles now for our democracy functionality for staking, and we'll have this like KSM. But I kind of in my vision I see like a whole library of those things, right? So that if you're a developer and you're coming in, instead of trying to go and figure out all these integrations on your own, you kind of have this ready built like set of like integrations that are already there, and they're in an EVM environment to boot, right? So like since they're all precompiles, they're compatible with this full like Ethereum like tooling and tech stack. They just look like smart contracts that are in our EVM. So I think that's something that we want to kind of work on, and I think is going to be quite powerful, especially as a lot of these more infrastructural chains kind of come to life on both Kusama and PolkaDot.
Thank you so much for that explanation. That was really, really clear. And it's a very important conversation, just given how nascent the whole space is, building up this block space to fill up with things like sushi LP transactions. So looking beyond where you guys are, I think that you just defined a really cool place within the ecosystem, right? Where you have your tech stack, you have a set of tools that then can be leveraged by others for interoperability. You have the EVM compatibility, right? Like you've really got a really clear definition for who Moonbeam and Moonriver could be within, the shared consensus of all the validation within the relay chains and .sama, and everywhere else. So, is there another type of infrastructure chain from your perspective, right now that you've kind of defined where you are, that's really exciting. It's like a first type of integration that gets you really excited, that you think that could be something that will really be a force multiplier or value add for the overall ecosystem that you're not doing, but someone else is doing it. You think it's really, really great.
Yeah, so I would give you like more examples of scenarios. Like, give you one concrete example. I mean, this isn't even like way out in the distance. This is like, coming like pretty soon. Would be, we recently announced like a partnership with Lido. And, so what Lido, they obviously have this like liquid staking protocol that they've deployed to other chains. But, the challenge that they had when coming to PolkaDot was, they had this choice, like, well, do we kind of deploy like a whole parachain just to like provide this like, this liquid like staking capability for relay chain assets. And this is kind of where the partnership sprung up from, where like that's like one of these precompiled integrations, right? Where we can basically provide like an EVM compatible interface for them to then perform like remote staking operations like on the relay chain. And they'll be using that to drive liquids like a liquid staked version of KSM to start, and ultimately DOT that is kind of compatible then with Ethereum tech stack, so they can deploy the rest of their their dApps and like other components like onto Moonriver and Moonbeam. So that's an example. I'd say on your broader question of what I'm excited about, I'm kind of coming around to the opinion that I'm kind of more enthusiastic about like infrastructure chains. Because these chains are there. I mean, yes, you have substrate, and that makes it a lot easier, and you have a lot of things that are being kind of provided. But I would tell you that it's still like not super easy to like deploy one of these things. So I think that there's only certain teams that are going to be able to pull off like app specific chains. I think, right? Because you're just kind of like there's a lot of infrastructural requirements, I guess, to like launch one of these things that are obviously not like part of like the app stack and trying to like make a great user experience, right, to like attract users. So I mean, my kind of thought at this point, or a little bit of where I think things are going to head, is that a lot of these parachains are going to be, the successful ones are going to be kind of infrastructural in nature, right, where you still have dApp developers that like will kind of build apps on top, but you may leverage kind of like different kinds of infrastructure chains to do certain specialized things. And so, I mean, you already kind of see this kind of like multi-chain application happening today. I mean, you take like, a lot of the more NFT oriented apps today, even on Ethereum, right? I mean, you might have the NFT itself is like on ETH mainnet, but then like the metadata is stored on Arweave, right? So you have this kind of like combination of a storage oriented chain and like a, smart contract chain where the whole is greater than some of its parts. And so that's the kind of idea that I'm probably most excited about, like in the .sama ecosystem, is kind of the ability to have these specialized chains and kind of for developers to be able to like choose different services that they are going to like support like their application like from amongst these specialized chains and services. So I kind of think of it it's kind of like a Web3 version of AWS, right? Where like ultimately maybe where you say like, I need some compute maybe like from Moonriver, I need like some storage, kind of like an S3, but like a decentralized version, and if I need an identity service, there's a specialized chain for that, and so you can kind of assemble kind of like an application out of all services. That's kind of where I see things headed, I guess, and that's kind of what I'm most excited about.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that explanation. Wish you guys all the best and good luck in the Parachain auction when that happens.
No, thanks very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Vintage. Good to hear that there's so much with interoperability and the EVM ecosystem and partnerships. But when Cardano partnership?
We'll see. Probably.
Anyway, yeah.
I haven't followed what's happened with their smart contract launch, but
Okay. Well, we've Korad, would you like to get up here? Okay.
Hi. Sorry. I completely missed the button.
No problem.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I have a two-part question. The first thing is, as you've mentioned previously, the market cap and the FDV of Moonriver is pretty significant now. Why would one want to have exposure to Moonriver instead of waiting for the launch of Moonbeam? That's the first part. And the second part is I'd like to have you to elaborate more on the deployment of meter passports with Moonbeam.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, the first part, like, I'm definitely not the right guy to to give like investment advice of any kind. I mean, I guess I can just share with you that the way I think about these things is that I definitely don't think that this narrative that like, oh well, Moonriver is like a test net, so thus it's not like valuable. That clearly seems is wrong. I guess I would say the market has spoken on that, and that's not like what I think either, right? So it kind of goes back to yes, they each are going to be independent. There's plenty of demand for block space, so I think that they're just going to be host to like different kinds of teams and use cases. They're going to have like an independent trajectory forward. And so then I think thinking about Moonriver versus Moonbeam, it's probably a little bit thinking about like the kinds of communities that are like around each chain and like where it makes sense to kind of spend your time and like and engage, right? I mean, I do tend to see that at least so far, and we'll see obviously once they're both, that difference may become easier to make. But at least as far as PolkaDot and KSM is concerned, or Kusama, it's like tends to be this kind of like artsier, perhaps more degen-y kind of crowd that like is sometimes on like Kusama, and then it's a little bit more kind of like a little bit more buttoned up, I guess I'd say, on Dot. So yeah, we'll see what happens though. I mean, it's a little, I think we need them both to be out to see kind of like to really kind of compare. For the second question about like meter passport, so yeah, we're definitely like engaged with that team. That is like one of the bridging, the bridges that will be available shortly. They are also just waiting on some of the to get kind of the check mark on it, to deploy. And yeah, I think that that's a team that we've been kind of engaged with for some time. So that'll definitely be an option.
Awesome. Thank you, Derek. I hope that's all good there, Korate. Awesome. Okay. Bring up Prince Kid again here. And yeah, so degens on Kusama. You heard it. You heard it there. All right. Prince Kid.
Hey guys, just quick two questions, if I may. So just to chime in on the previous question in regards to like the multiple VMs for supporting different VMs. So with like the recent success of Solana and like earlier on, a lot of people, including myself, kind of writing it off because it's not EVM compatible. Do you guys probably see like maybe in the near future you guys will be like I don't know, supporting different VMs now that I guess you could say Solana kind of just like tear the curtain off that it's possible to be like successful or whatever even if you're not EVM supported. And the second question is to go back to the earlier question of you saying like changes or whatever will be going on to Moonriver first before going to Moonbeam. So you mentioned that there are like two different communities per se. So don't you think like going forward there will be like more changes tailored towards Moonriver as like a smart contract platform towards the community or whatever, versus like Moonbeam tailoring that development going forward? Or do you still think that they'll be the same in terms of changes that you can deploy going forward?
Yeah.
Clear.
So yeah, I mean the first question about multiple VMs. I mean, yeah, I just think we're just focused on like the Ethereum tech stack, like for now or for the foreseeable future. If there are other tech stacks that like have, our maturity in terms of like the tooling around them, I think it's something we could consider. Although I'd probably ask the question, does this belong, like, is it make more sense to have like a multi-VM chain, or does it make sense potentially to just have like some, to have like a separate parachain that would do that? that question would be something probably worth considering. But for the short term for us, I mean, we're just it's about specialization, and I think we're just specializing in the Ethereum implementation that we've done, like substrate, right? I mean, that's just kind of we've gone pretty deep on this to understand how things work, and that's kind of our expertise, I guess, is what I'd say at this point. What was the second question again? Just remind me real quick.
Yeah, sure. So the second question is you mentioned earlier that deployments will be on, changes will be on Moonriver.
Yeah, I remember the question. So yeah, I would say that I mean we still want to use the like Moonriver as the place where code gets deployed first. So we are keeping with this original parity idea of you have a place, you deploy there first. It's if and only if things are are there for some amount of time and everything looks good, then you promote them to PolkaDot. So we are gonna follow that strategy, but you do raise a pretty good point. If these things truly are independent with a different set of holders, there is on-chain governance, by the way, for that matter. So if there's just a different set of holders and they're kind of unique and independent and they have their own trajectory forward, is that kind of incompatible? Or is there going to be some is the original idea compatible? I don't know. We'll have to kind of see. I mean, I do think there could be things that might only make sense to do on Moonriver, and they may stay there, right? And so there are different environments too, right? So all the integrations both, because there's different parachains that are in both environments, or there will be. So I think that we're still kind of thinking of it with this original kind of concept in mind, at least from a software development perspective. But I think my expectation is that there may be these they may have their own kind of trajectories forward, in which case there may be differences over time at the code level.
Okay, real quick, just to chime off that question. So does that mean the same team per se will be devs will be working on both Moonriver and Moonbeam, or will you guys have a dedicated team for each ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, for now, obviously, we're it's just kind of the one team that's doing, that is developing both. I mean, if you look even at our code, we kind of produce the code, and then we have different outputs for each of the different networks we support. And I think so that's gonna likely remain the case for some time here. But like I said, I mean, over time, these things are on-chain governed, right? So it might, and it's going to be the case that the token holders may also vote with their tokens to proceed in one direction or another, and that may require then accounting for differences over time. For us, obviously there's a lot of benefit to just having kind of being able to leverage the same team but I mean the future is kind of long from here. I expect it to be around a long time, so we'll have to see what happens on kind of the longer run.
All right, cool. Thanks for answering my question again.
Thank you very much, Prince Gay. All right, Nos.
Hey,
There you are. Hi.
wondering, since we have a lot of traffic on Moonriver and stuff, I was wondering how, from a performance standpoint, how's it better in Ethereum right now? Are you guys having any issues with performance, or is it going as planned?
Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, there's a kind of a technical kind of blog update that I'm gonna put out. I wrote up last night that we'll put out probably maybe today or tomorrow. But I would say that well, we definitely have seen a lot more demand and and kind of people deploying as I mentioned before, than we expected in these first couple of weeks. A couple notable points are that it's we are discovering and kind of addressing things as we're finding them. We in terms of performance specifically, the other important thing to note is that this system and really all parachains at this point are kind of intentionally being run in this in this like throttled like way right now. I'm not sure, like a lot of people aren't aware of this, but like for example, the relay chain right now, the Kusama relay chain is dictating like a 12-second block time, like for all parachains. But the ultimate like target time is going to be 6 seconds, so it's being run at kind of half speed. And then the other thing that's being done is like this kind of amount of execution time that parachains have. We've been kind of like asked to like throttle that back like to like a much smaller number than like what the ultimate like throughput will be, so that basically like performance tuning and other like troubleshooting can like happen right. So like that's kind of like where we are now, and I think actually we're probably leading the charge a little bit in the sense of actually like having like a lot of load on the system that's like demonstrating kind of like how like the overall like Kusama PolkaDot like system is working. And so we're pretty tied in pretty closely with the Parity engineering team, and kind of doing a lot of like sharing a lot of data and like results, and like we have like a lot of optimizations that like we'll be doing. So I think it's going to be a thing where that capacity will kind of like unlock and expand like as we like do these things. The one thing that we aren't like kind of sacrificing that I think the tempting thing to do is to kind of centralize some components. I mean, I think that's kind of like what a lot of the other kind of like high throughput chains have done, right? Is you kind of centralize certain infrastructural components and then you get like throughput that way. I'd say that's not really kind of the approach we've taken, where I think that Kusama and PolkaDot themselves, the relay chains, have this like high degree of security and decentralization, and so we kind of want to maintain that standard like down into like our parachain and not kind of walk any of that back. So that's part of why we, for example, like did a lot of work around having an open and permissionless set of collators that do block production, that perform block production in our chain. That was like a launcher basically to like make sure that we had like a distributed set of block producers. So yeah, I mean, those are just some thoughts there. There's going to be, like I said, a kind of a blog that kind of explains some of this coming out soon, and I expect like to see pretty substantive improvements like as we kind of continue to iterate on things with Parity.
All right, thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense.
Wicked. Thank you very much, Nas. Yeah, a couple other, I guess, quick things here coming from the AMA text questions, and more sushi related here. Just with sushi, I guess, integration. I know timelines are always a bit of a can be a bit of a challenge, but like a couple weeks, few weeks, where like what do you kind of, just to give a ballpark, I guess?
Yeah, I would have to say like a couple weeks sounds like that sounds entirely reasonable. I mean,
okay. Cool.
It's not like a long way off here. So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And then as far as I know, there was some stuff about the proposals here, or back in our proposals or in the forum there about M Sushi. Maybe just shed a bit of light and some color on that.
Yeah, so I have seen some folks speaking about this, and I can't obviously speak for your guys' team on plans, but I would say that they're. We engaged like initially with Maki and some of the rest of the team like quite some time ago at this point, right? So this was like just after Chef Nomi left, and like it was maybe a turbulent time for the project, but this is like quite some time ago, and I do think that your guys' strategy has like changed over time, right? So I think obviously sushi is now living on like many different layer ones, across the whole like ecosystem. So and to the best of my understanding, like the original kind of like moon sushi idea like is not like the current plan. But again, I don't want to speak for kind of the sushi team. I think that there's some other ideas at work there, and yeah, this probably needs to come from from your guys' side, and I don't know that it's all been like kind of formalized yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not 100% on where it's at either, so I can't really speak to it. But yeah. Anyways, sorry for everyone who's wanting answers and whatnot. But yeah, just still to come. So okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know if there's we're probably a good time here to start wrapping up here. We've had a lot of people come up. I do appreciate all the engagement we've had up here. Yeah, if there's any final questions, yeah, maybe raise your hand. Come on up here quickly, or AMA text questions. Thank you everyone for putting in questions that way. But yeah, anything else or anyone? We've covered quite a bit here, so this is great. Okay, who's this hand here? Exodia. Hey, there you are. Oh.
Hello, what's up?
Hey, there
Can
you
hear
are.
me?
Yeah, go on. Go ahead.
What's up? Just a quick question. Big fan of the project. I don't know if you know anything about their project, but how do you feel about the solar beam project? I've been in it for a couple of days. Hasn't been bad, but there's been like no official backing by anyone, and I know you guys aren't going to come out and be like it's our project, but have you spoken with the founders or the team or anything? Got an idea what you guys think of it?
Yeah, so we are like a little careful about like I guess like official endorsements. You know what I mean? So like, but I will tell you that like I did speak with the team, so we have like an initial connection there, and yeah, I mean we're kind of like working on kind of like an ongoing relationship. The thing that just if you put yourself in our shoes, right, like the tricky part is that or we just like we just don't know what we don't know, and we just want to be cautious, like when there are teams where we haven't like really been interacting with them, and they are anonymous teams, like so like, we just want to make sure to kind of establish a connection and have some shared work history together first. That's kind of like our operation, but yeah, I would say that they've definitely executed well. I mean, this is like I'm saying, like to just like I think out the gate, like they were like after we like launched the network, they were out the gate pretty fast, and yeah, I've heard that like they might have upwards towards 100 million of TVL in like a couple weeks. So I mean that's like impressive, I guess.
Yeah, these things kind of speak for themselves. So that's all I wanted to know. Thanks. You guys have a good one.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else here. Final questions, but I think this is a great place to wrap up here. It's been over an hour here of some great stuff here. So thank you. Thank you, Derek. But yeah, let's. I think let's wrap it up here. Unless there's any last final things that you want to share with us, Derek, or any I don't know, any final comments, alpha leaks, anything like that?
Well, no, I appreciate Tango you having me on and all the great questions and everything. And yeah, I guess I just appreciate the whole kind of community here. I do feel like this Moonriver kind of launch has been it's I think you kind of like really just get the sense of like the community led aspect of it, where it's like has like an energy of its own. And I think that's obviously we've taken a page out of your guys' book, and it's like on that you're one of the original. You guys are here's that idea. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to express my appreciation to folks who are also like community members of Moonriver, and yeah, you guys have been awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and sure appreciate you coming on here today and sharing all the information here with everyone. Your website, socials. How do we find Moonbeam, Moonriver, yourself, all that?
Yeah, I'd say that great place to start is like the website is moonbeam.network. That's a great jumping off point that has links to a whole bunch of other things. For Twitter, it's just at Moonbeam Network. Those would probably be the two places I'd start with, and you can get to a lot of places from there. I would mention for technical folks or for folks that are trying to develop or deploy things, like the Discord is really the main. Like our Discord is the main place where that happens. So I'd encourage anyone that wants to kind of engage like more substantively in the community, like the Discord is the place to be.
Okay, great. And if I'm hoping somebody's gonna drop the link for moonbeam.exchange. Oh, look at that! Look at all the links right there. Perfect. Moonbeam.network. Sorry. And then the Twitters are both there. There's the Discord chat. That's so anybody that's looking for that, please just head over into the AMA text questions, and all of that stuff is there. That should get you into everything and anything you need. So, very cool. Very cool. Of course, anybody that's been in the room here for 15 minutes or so, you will be eligible for a POAP. It looks like we've got 641 records right now, so we've had decent little retention. So I think we've got everybody that's in here, unless if you've joined just recently, maybe it won't have logged you. But if you're in here for 15 minutes, you'll be eligible for a POAP. You can head over to the Get POAP channel that is underneath the main sushi area there, and then just type !claim. That's all you got to do. Master POAP V2 will send you a DM, and you can claim your POAP that way. Then, of course, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Sushi official channel, so you can check that out on YouTube. Share it with your friends, family, and your loved ones, or your pets, or whatever you're into. And, of course, follow me on Twitter, 0xtangle. And you can always click on go into the calendar channel that we have just right below announcements in the Sushi Swap server, and click on the little alarm clock, and that'll give you for the events that we've got going. It'll give you a notifications, and you can stay up to date so you don't miss things. Okay, sure appreciate everyone coming out for this. It's been a great deal. Thank you so much, Derek, and good luck with everything. And looking forward to the future ahead.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Tangle.
All right, thanks, Derek. Take care, everyone. All right, bye-bye.